It is great to have our Senior Counsel for Global Affairs after yesterday's events, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo joining us today with Zelenskyy at the White House, then Zelenskyy addressing members of Congress. The last time I remember anything like that with a world leader was Netanyahu addressing members of Congress. But Secretary Pompeo, so the Biden administration said it would provide another $1.885 billion in military aid to Ukraine, and that it includes a Patriot Missile defense system. There's a lot of buzz has been circling about this potentially happening. What does the Patriot system do, and what's the significance of this gesture? I think people, they're just confused because they've heard the threats from Russia if we put this kind of system in place.
Well, Jordan, it is a significant system. It is important, and it will change the context of the battle in the sense of now the Ukrainians will have a full-scale capability to defend their own civilian populations. Remember that the Patriot missile system is a defensive weapon system. It no more intends to or is capable of attacking Russia or any place else. It is designed for area coverage, point coverage of defense against Russian missiles, against Iranian drones, against Chinese technology that might be deployed on the battlefield by the Russians, against energy and utilities and churches and Ukrainian civilians, innocent. I'm glad we're providing it. We are months and months too late in doing so. And I think having this defensive capability for the Ukrainians will hasten the end of this bloody conflict.
Let me ask you this, Mike. One of the questions that are really being asked right now is there an end game in sight here, which includes the possibility of a ceasefire, which would now the Russians look at this time of year, the winter, as their best opportunity to advance. So, and you're a West Point grad, so you could address this. Do you see any movement with Vladimir Putin? You've been in the room with the guy. You've talked to him. You've negotiated with him. I mean, there's few people in the world that have had the experience you've had with him. Do you see any movement chance here?
It sure doesn't look like it. But I always, Jay, you know this too. It's always darkest before you get to a good outcome. And a good outcome for the world would be Vladimir Putin deciding he was going to be part of a ceasefire plan. That would be a good thing. Then we can come up with solutions. We can stop the death and destruction. I don't see any evidence of that. His not only his rhetoric, but his actions on the ground. He's traveled to a place called Belarus that I traveled when I was a Secretary of State to meet with its leader, Lukashenko. He seems intent on continuing to pursue what was his original objective, attacking into major parts of Europe. We should not underestimate. The Ukrainians have had enormous success, but don't think for a minute the Russians are going to give up. He still has the same intentions. His capabilities are diminished, but counteroffensives, as you talked about my time at West Point, I've watched military conflict. These things have a way of changing on a dime, and the Russians are intent on doing that. They're recruiting people from all across the world to come fight alongside them, and they have Chinese, Iranian support to continue to underwrite this mission.
I wanted to ask about that too. That is I wrote a book called Unholy Alliance, which was Russia, Iran, and Syria. But this one you just named would be the super unholy alliance. That is a scary thought that the Chinese, Russian, and Iranians are playing out of the same playbook here.
It's funny you say unholy. Russia claims it's a Christian nation, although he has co-opted the Russian church in ways that are just pure evil. Yep. The Iranians have their mullahs, and the Chinese are, in fact, unholy and don't permit any religious freedom inside of their country. But they have a shared interest. That bloc, that totalitarian bloc, has a shared interest in attacking Europe, in undermining democracy in the world. And so we shouldn't think about this as just Russia going after Ukraine. This is, in fact, that very unholy alliance you described, add in the Chinese Communist Party trying to undermine our way of life here in the West.
Secretary Pompeo, do Americans need to worry about the rhetoric coming out of Russia that by just delivering this system, the Patriot missile system, that we have escalated this conflict and now they see us as 100% directly involved, and that means that we are potentially a target of their aggression, whether that's military or cyber attacks? I mean, do we need to take that threat seriously?
Oh, Jordan, absolutely. It's why it is so sad to me that we lost the deterrence. Right? When you think about this, we're now scrambling to try and help the Ukrainians defend themselves from a invasion of their nation. We would have been far better off with American leadership, European leadership too. The Europeans haven't done enough, need to do more. but strong leadership from the West that would have prevented this very moment. And so as you hear Putin use this rhetoric, some of it's bluster, at least it's proven so far, but we have to prepare for the worst. We need to be prepared to defend against everything Vladimir Putin threatens to do. We have the capability, the capacity to do that, Jordan. Americans should know that. We can absolutely help the Ukrainians deliver on good outcomes, and this matters an awful lot to people all across our country too. It seems a long ways away, but make no mistake about it. This Russian effort, there's an energy component to it. There's a way of life component to it, and then there is this. Right, since I was a young soldier back in the 1980s, the late 1980s, there is this intent of the Russian Empire to continue to expand, and they now have a partner in the Chinese Communist Party that makes that even more possible.
Mr. Secretary, we appreciate you serving alongside us at the American Center for Law and Justice, and we want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. And again, thank you for your insights. Thank you for your help on so many important issues. It's been an honor and continues to be too. Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.